straight to our first story for the morning, where Parliament has begun deliberations on the Over-Age Right to Information Bill, which has relayed in Parliament and currently at the consideration stage. In all, the House is to amend the 92-clause bill. Members of the Constitutional and Legal Committee during the second reading of the bill have expressed optimism as the process goes on.
Our choice of democratic governance entails an active participation by all in the governance of the country. In this participatory democracy, the right to information is particularly relevant. It is essential, Mr. Speaker, to ensure good governance. It is only when participants in governance are well informed that they can contribute meaningfully to governance. This can only be achieved if they have access to relevant information. Thus, this right ensures that A, requisite data is made available to individuals. B, there is more truthfulness and transparency in government.
Mr. Speaker, we have finally arrived. The Right to Information Bill has been languishing in the doldrums for some time now, has generated a lot of anger within the public space. The Parliament has not been able, all these years after our attempt at constitutional rule, to operationalize Article 21 of the Constitution and make access to information one of the rights to be enjoyed by the citizens of this country. Mr. Speaker, the fact that today we are doing second reading of the bill will give comfort to many people that we are on the path to passing the bill into law to operationalize Article 21 of the Constitution, make information available to the citizens from public offices and some private organizations, and also throw some light or assist us in our fight to curtail corruption in this country.
Now, Parliament is setting up a special committee to investigate the corruption at the Ghana Football Association, GFA, unraveled by investigative journalist Anas Aremia Anas. The decision follows a proposal made by the Member of Parliament for Bodi Honorable Samson Ahi for the House to set up an investigative committee to probe the matter, which is critical national interest.
The Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, stressed that Parliament has the power to make laws to regulate professional, trade and business organizations. For that matter, we are entitled to look into that matter and come to a conclusion one way or the other. The extent of corruption in the Anas's documentary has left Ghanaians stunned. Several high-ranking members in the GFA, including its president, Kwesi Nyantakyi, have been implicated in acts of corruption. Many Ghanaian FA officials and referees were caught in match-fixing deals. Top football administrators were also seen taking money to give footballers call-ups to the national team and more playing time. Notably, Eddie Doku, the Greater Accra Regional FA boss, has been caught on tape taking a bribe to influence game times for a player in the Black Stars Team B. The Member of Parliament for Bodi has proposed to the House to set up a special committee to further probe the matter.
As a matter of urgency, because it is, if you follow social media and the airwaves this morning, it is generally agreed among Ghanaians that the GFA president should step aside. One may question that, or one may suggest that GFA is an independent institution. And for that matter, we cannot go into matters that affect GFA. But per Article 109 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, I read, Parliament may by law regulate professional, trade, and business organizations. So if we agree that GFA is a professional institution. The Constitution also gives us opportunity to regulate the conduct and also go into any matter that has to do with GFA as a professional institution. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a national interest issue, and I want us as Parliament to take action, to take steps to ensure that the GFA chairman step aside to allow independent investigation into the various allegations made against him.
The Speaker, with support from leadership, have admitted the proposal.
Parliament has the power to make laws to regulate professional trade and business organizations. That is a very, very strong authority. And also that sub 2, the affairs of an organization referred to in clause 1 shall be conducted on democratic lines. If we have the power to regulate you, one of the criteria we have been told here is to see whether you are acting democratically. And if fraud or corruption is alleged, that cannot be democratic. For that matter, we are entitled to look into that matter and come to some conclusion one way or the other. And that is what our special committees, of course, must be able to do.
And so we'll be giving you more update on to about that particular reactions there in Parliament, as the House members of Parliament are taking it with a new committee being set up to investigate that particular investigative piece from the camp of Anas Armiao Anas. Now, the president of the Ghana Football Association, Kwesi Nyantakyi, has responded to the latest expose of Tiger Eye PI. In an interview with Supersport, the president called the bluff of the expose, saying it has been edited to suit their purpose.
Little did I know that they were even undercover investigators on match fixing. During the entire period of the discussion, they never mentioned match fixing to me. They never told me that they wanted us to fix matches of the Black Stars. They never told me that they were people wanting to engage in match fixing. So it is strange and news to me that these were people who wanted to do match fixing. The video, in fact, is what we call cut and paste. They took out some of the discussions and brought what suited their purpose. So for me, the intention is clear, is to commit mischief and to expose us to public ridicule, slam us, drag our name into mud, and let us look bad in the eyes of right-thinking members of our society. What I can say is that this is different.
So some reactions coming in there from the present GFA boss, Kwesi Nyantakyi. And so last night, information came in that government will be dissolving the GFA. As to how true is that, and as to the details of that particular story, we give you more on that here on Gntv. But also then let's take a look into other stories where Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress, Ghana TUC, Anthony Yalba, has advised workers in Ghana to show positive attitude towards work. Speaking at a meeting organized by the union to discuss issues affecting institutions and the operations, he stated that people can improve tremendously if they should take up challenges and not be reluctant towards work.
The Trades Union Congress, TUC of Ghana, is the main umbrella organization for trade union activities in Ghana. It is made up of 18 affiliated national unions. These are autonomous bodies which pursue their own activities but within the framework of the constitutions and their area of legally accepted jurisdiction. The TUC is the official mouthpiece of unionized labor in its dealings with government and with the Employers Association. In an address delivered by Secretary General of the Union, Anthony Yalba, advised workers in Ghana to show positive attitude towards work for effectiveness and productivity.
Dr. Gntv was telling me that when people need jobs and they come, the attitude is different. And when you give them the job, the attitude changes. Some people came, they said they want job. In his industry, he ran 3 shifts. Then he said, young men and women, you want to come and learn. Those of you'll be on the 3rd shift. He said they will give all the reasons why they cannot be on the 3rd shift, but another person will be on that 3rd shift.
He believes people can improve and do more if attitudes are changed.
Somebody told me he's a casual. He has been a casual for 10 years. And when he heard me on maybe, he called me. I don't know where he got the number. Then he said, Doctor, I have worked in my industry for 10 years as a casual. We, the casuals, we work harder than those permanent staff. Can you imagine? And so, casuals don't have all the social security and the rest of them. But he told me that they work harder. So the employer doesn't even want to make them permanent. And he has been a casual for 10 years. But on Monday, shouting that casual. Then he said we should educate our own people so that the employers will have the incentive to make them permanent. And this is the reality out there.
Individuals and groups of people employed by the government, institutions, private companies, and other corporate organizations show certain negative behavioral patterns which do not promote the progress and development of such organizations. Some of the negative behaviors are absenteeism, pilfering, laziness and malingering, leaving the workplace before closing time, use of working hours to work lotto and other unofficial duties, alcoholism, and lateness to work.
Now, stakeholders in the petroleum sector and captains of Ghana's downstream industry assembled at the 2018 edition of the Ghana International Petroleum Conference, GIPCON, to share ideas on how to realize government's vision of a petroleum hub in Ghana. Now, speaking at the event, Vice President of Ghana, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in his keynote address, confirmed government's commitment to ensuring that crude oil is refined in the industry to develop and improve on petrochemical industry here in the country.
The conference gave platform for industry players to discuss how government's vision can translate into strategies and realistic plans for implementation. Prior to the discovery of oil in commercial quantities in 2007, Ghana's oil and gas industry was dominated by downstream activities. The industry has, however, grown from one dominated by government to a deregulated one which accommodates both public and private stakeholders. The key milestone in the achievement of deregulation was in 2005 when President John Agyekum Kufuor led the front in removing the bottlenecks and challenges in the industry, which later resulted in the enactment of the National Petroleum Authority Act 2005 Act 691. The first phase of the deregulation was to ensure private sector participation in the provision of downstream infrastructure and the importation of petroleum products. Speaking at the 2018 Ghana International Petroleum Conference edition, Tan Wu, Senior Director, Oil and Gas, Sabana Jurong, Singapore, gave some recommendation to industry players in the preparation to build a petroleum hub in Ghana.
Proper planning is essential, especially at the very onstart. Big-time investors, especially in the petrochemical industries, invest billions of dollars into the facilities. And it's not easy to shift when you need to shift. And typically, it won't happen, meaning you won't be able to shift, learning from our experience. So it has to be planned in a very proper manner. All aspects of details need to be think about, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation.
Later Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in his keynote address, confirmed government's commitment to ensuring that crude oil is refined in the country to add value and develop a petrochemical industry in Ghana.
Developing Ghana into a petroleum hub for refined petroleum products is one of the important growth pillars envisaged for our economy. It makes this conference a very useful one in discussing how government's vision can be translated into strategies and into realistic plans for implementation. The development of a hub in Ghana will require an increase in the country's refining capacity beyond current levels, both to meet domestic demand and for export. It is therefore important that our petroleum service providers, especially the BDCs, change their business model to respond to the hub plans, as there would be more products for export than the current model of importing the shortfalls in production.
We're still live here from our studios number 10 Emperor Street here in Accra, Aslam Down, Ghana, the capital, and so live here. And we are back with more on the international front. Don't go away. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram, all on GNTVGH. Also streaming live on YouTube at GNTVGH. Let's now take a look into the international front, where Sudan has stated that it has cut all defense ties with North Korea, in a rare admission that it used to have such ties in the first place. The announcement came as Washington is locked in a standoff over Pyongyang's missile and nuclear weapons programs, and as Sudan, which is still on the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism, reels from an economic crisis.
The United States lifted 20 years of sanctions on Sudan in October, in a move that looked set to help Sudan's ailing economy, but the country has since plunged into a fiscal crisis, with the Sudanese pound's value plummeting and no significant increase in foreign investment. Washington said then that Sudan had made progress fighting terrorism and that it had secured Khartoum's commitment not to pursue arms deals with North Korea. But Sudan remains on the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism alongside Syria and Iran, which means a ban on weapon sales and restrictions on U.S. aid. Sudan's economic problems led to widespread protests earlier this year.
Rescue workers in Kenya have been recovering bodies from the site of the plane crash in the Aberdare Mountains, according to Kenya's Daily Nation newspaper. 9 of 10 bodies have been brought down from the wreckage. Officials said that the aircraft black box had also been recovered.
This wreckage was reasonably damaged and had been spotted 11,900 feet up a 400 meters cliff face in a dense area after rescue operations resumed this morning, June 7, 2018. The plane, operated by East Africa Safari Air Express, flew out of the western town of Kitale late on Tuesday afternoon. It disappeared off the radar screens at its final destination, the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in the capital, Nairobi, around 80 minutes. Despite the fact that the fate of the pilots and passengers is still unclear, Mr. Maringa added that a recovery team, including medics, has been directed there and the Red Cross is on board too. The cause of the crash is still unclear.
Diplomatic tensions and an escalating trade war mean that President Donald Trump can expect a chilly reception and awkward body language from allied leaders at the weekend's G7 summit in Canada, which have been dubbed by some as G1+6.
Trump's feuds with Washington's traditional partners are sure to test his promise that his America First ideology does not mean America alone. Yet, as soon as the summit wraps up, Trump will jet off to what remarkably is likely to be a much warmer affair, a historic encounter in Singapore with one of the world's most notorious strongmen, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, the leader of a nation still technically at war with the United States. Kim will join a stable of autocrats, including Russia's Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping, who have earned Trump's gushing praise to the consternation of some of America's oldest friends. At times, it seems American foreign policy has been turned upside down. America's relations with major allies lurched into crisis over steel and aluminium tariffs imposed by the Trump White House on Canada, Mexico, and the European Union. The move upheld friendly government because it was justified by the rationale that their trade policies presented a national security threat to the U.S. These are nations that shed blood alongside America in the post-9/11 wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and stood alongside the United States during the dark, threatening years of the Cold War.
Human rights campaigners have lost a Supreme Court appeal over the legality of Northern Ireland's abortion law.
The Commission lost on the issue of whether they had the required standing to bring the case. Analysts have said that the Commission's defeat came because of a technical legal point. Unlike other parts of the UK, the 1967 Abortion Act does not extend to Northern Ireland. Currently, a termination is only permitted in Northern Ireland if a woman's life is at risk or if there is a risk of permanent and serious damage to her mental or physical health. The challenge to the law was brought by the NIHRC, but on Thursday, judges said it would have required the case to have been brought by a woman who was pregnant as a result of sexual crime or was carrying a fetus with a fetal abnormality. As a result, the judges did not make a formal declaration of incompatibility, which would normally lead to a change in the law. Any change in the law will now be up to the politicians, either in Belfast or Westminster.
And so I'll still give you more news update here. Let's take a look at what exactly is happening in other parts of the world in this particular report.
99 people are now known to have died since Sunday, and nearly 200 others remain unaccounted for. Villages on the slopes were buried in volcanic ash and mud after fuego erupted. Subsequent smaller eruptions and the high temperatures of the rock and mud debris have made search teams' work extremely difficult. More than 1.7 million people have been affected, with more than 3,000 evacuated. The National Institute for Seismology and Volcanology have said that its conscience is clear and that it's issued the relevant warning in plenty of time. It claims the responsibility for any failing lies with the Civil Emergency Authority, CONRAD, which didn't then act on its warnings. It has been shown that CONRAD's Twitter feed as late as 11 on the morning of the eruption said it wasn't yet necessary to evacuate. The organization has denied it was to blame and that when it did issue the alerts, they were ignored.
So there you have it. As politicians in Guatemala want the head of the Emergency Response Agency to be dismissed as to what is happening over there. So we'll be giving more details on that. But that's all for the news this morning here on Gntv. With me right now, Amaning. We've been live here from our studios inside number 10 and Import Street here in Aslamdown, Accra, the capital of Ghana in West Africa. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter at GNTVGH. Streaming live on YouTube as well at GNTVGH. Stay tuned for more news update and for more quality content programs. Have a good morning.